Welcome to the What's Your Story podcast from the 20th YSA Ward. And today we have, introduce yourself.
Justin Olney.
Okay, and today we're going to get to know Justin Olney. It's Olney, O-N-L-Y.
O-L anyway.
Olney.
Like an old knee.
Oh, that'll help me remember. Okay, well, we have Justin Olney with us today. Just kidding. And we're going to learn about your story and what makes you unique. So I think my first question for you would be, if I just met you, what is it about you that would make you unique? Like, what would you want to tell me about yourself?
It's a good question.
Like, not just the simple stuff, like what actually makes you Justin?
Yeah. I think for me, I'm a traveler. I love traveling.
I have questions about travel for you because
that's mostly where my passion is and like where my purpose I feel like lies within myself.
So can we stop there?
Yeah, just stop there.
Let's just start with that.
Okay.
So you said that that's where your purpose is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Expand.
Okay.
How is that your purpose?
So I don't know. For a lot of people, I think you're trying to figure out and navigate life, and especially as a young person trying to figure out, okay, do I go to school? Do I do these things? It's hard to figure out where you want to go with your life. And for me, I was super blessed to be able to travel and live in multiple countries before I was even 22. Mm-hmm. And it gave me a lot of opportunities to try different things. And I just saw a lot of things that I didn't necessarily agree with the things that I was trying to do, like through those experiences. And
in the different places you were at?
Yeah. So like I was teaching English and then I was like serving in the Philippines. So like I lived in 3 different third world countries. Mm-hmm. And you see a lot of people go and like build houses or do these other things and that kind of deal. And I think for me, it was, you see and you live with these people, you learn their language, you learn what they actually care about, and none of them care about it. They're totally fine living in a shack as long as they have their family. Ultimately, what's going to help them develop their life and get to a different place, that's not going to be building a house and making them reliant upon us coming in and putting our Western societal things on them. Teaching them English, yeah, that may be cool, and it may give them different opportunities, but is that really something that they want? It's like the first few podcasts, it's fine. But yeah, so like going back to what I was explaining, I think a lot of people go into these countries, so you see like HEFY or those kind of things where like you have like 16, 17-year-old kids mm-hmm. going in, trying to build a house for these people. And you hear, at least from my experience, I hear lots of stories of the locals having to go back that night, basically tear down everything and rebuild it all again. Because you have a bunch of 16, 17-year-olds. Are they certified in construction? Do they know what they're doing? Have they ever worked with cement? Have they ever done construction? No. Right? And then they go in and think that it's going to be the way that it was in America, where it's totally not. Culture is totally different in every single country that I've lived in. Filipinos, they're very family oriented. Nicaraguans, they just love, to be together as a community. Mm-hmm. Dominicans, they're just the life of the party. They love to go to the beach and party it up. Like that, it's just totally different, like lifestyles, but you learn how to adjust yourself within each one of them as you start to learn the language, as you start to understand their culture. But the only way to actually get to that point is by living in those countries for a little while, right? I don't think going a week or two and like having that experience is going to give you that full exposure. It'll open your eyes to some of the issues, but really what's the underlying issue that they're having? They're in a poverty state and they don't have the resources to go after what they dream for, right? Mm-hmm. In America, that's why they all want to come here. You have open opportunity to pursue exactly what you want. Whereas in those countries, they don't necessarily have the resources or the jobs to give them that ability. So now what does that bring to my purpose? My purpose, I felt like, is to go to these countries and to give them that opportunity in different aspects. Now, I'm not 100% sure what that looks like yet. Still developing that, getting to a place that I can actually start to travel and live in those countries. I have things up in the works getting to that point, but, does that look like microloans Or does that look like, just getting to a country and providing opportunities for people with jobs? I don't know yet. We're developing that. But that's ultimately like where my heart is in traveling and developing relationships with even with a language barrier. I saw that throughout every single culture that you go to, you're going to have some type of language barrier maybe at the beginning, and that's when I had the most fun. I you just learn how to love what they love, and you break those barriers with love. So ultimately that's part of what my purpose is to break those language barriers with love, and then providing opportunity for those people as well.
So one of my questions that I wrote down before you got here, I said, well, I remember we gave a talk on the same Sunday, and you said something where you got to the point where you woke up, you still wake up every day and you feel joy, and like you have this motivation to lift and serve people. So how do you do that? Because you just said that your purpose is about like breaking those language boundaries with love. So whether it's like cultural, like people who have different cultures, or if it's just people in your neighborhood, how do you do that? Like, how do you feel love for people?
I think ultimately it comes down to how much do you care about yourself starting off, right? Do you care enough about yourself to take care of yourself? And do you care enough to build your relationship with God? And as long as you're taking care of those two things to begin with, the third of, breaking those barriers and reaching out and being an influencer in a sense, it's much easier because you've taken care of your needs, you've taken care of your needs with God, and now God can be part of that bridge, I guess, per se, because you've involved him, and then you don't have to worry about yourself because you've taken care of yourself. So then you can much easily look outward towards other people. So ultimately, like, that's where it comes down for me. Was I struggled with anxiety and depression since coming home from my mission. So I got sent home because of COVID. I didn't know how to react to it. I said everything was good and it was part of God's plan, right? I never processed really the pain or the hurt of it. And ultimately it came down to having a negative, like, coping mechanism of being depressed. And then it just continued to cycle and build and build and build until I got to a point where I was like, oh, like I don't feel happy with what I'm doing. I just go through the motions. I'm doing the right things, but it's not working out. And it was a process trying to get through that and figure it out. And eventually I got to a point where I was like, okay, well, I left to the Dominican and just had free time for me. I was in charge of people, but they kind of just, I was like, all right, you're fine. Take care of yourselves. You're grown-ups. And I had like 6 or 7 weeks just for me.
After your mission? Or
yeah, so this is after the mission. I went to a semester of college. I lived in Nicaragua, was teaching English, came back for a summer, and then moved to the Dominican to be a supervisor over a group of teachers there. And during that time in the Dominican was when I was able to find, I guess, that process of like taking care of myself and really getting back on track, because I was so far gone that I just was like, what do I do? Let's just move to another country. That just seems to solve all of my issues. That just seems to solve all of my issues. And it really did.
Wow.
It gave me the opportunity to just take time for myself and focus on what I needed to take care of and just really develop who I was. I felt like I developed that to a certain extent before the mission, on the mission, and then just kind of struggled coming home, just dealing with life, figuring it out. And ultimately, I think a lot of missionaries have that same struggle coming home. You know exactly what your purpose is for 2 years or 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
You come home, okay, well, I go to school, but really, what's my purpose going to school? Like, is that going to help me? Like, what is my purpose? What's driving my heart every single day? It's easy on the mission because you know exactly what you're doing. But now you get home and it's like, where is my purpose? Why am I waking up every day? Like, what am I going after? What has God called me here to do? Like, obviously, like, yes.
Those are valid questions.
Yeah. And like, obviously, like, as a missionary perspective, it's like, okay, I have to share the gospel and do this and that. But like, how does that look in your life? Right.
Yeah. With your personal gifts.
Yeah. And it's hard to figure that out. I think a lot of people struggle with that. And that's why I think a
100%.
lot of depression comes either on the mission or after the mission for a lot of return missionaries. And how do we develop and how do we learn what our purpose is? And that's by trying things. I think, I have a hard thing with school. I never liked it. And, that's fine. But I also enjoyed doing other things and learning in other avenues. And it got me to that point that I could, try a bunch of different things, live in different countries. You're in your 20s. It's okay that you don't know what you're doing. Try a bunch of things. What happens if you fail during your 20s? You're going to be in your 30s. Crap. Life's over. I don't know what to do with my life. How many 30-year-olds really have it figured out?
My dad was telling me that, I don't know who said it, but he was saying that the 20s are for mistakes.
Exactly.
Like, that's what you don't want to do. And then you're just like, okay, well, failure's okay. It propels me forward.
Yeah. If you go through your 20s not trying too many things, you're going to reach your 30s and regret that you didn't try them.
100%.
If you try a bunch of things, you figure out exactly what your purpose is, then in your 30s you can thrive and go exactly in the direction that you want to. Rather than just picking something and going with it, living your 9 to 5 every single day, going home, doing your thing. Like some people love that. That's totally fine. But is that really helping you develop what you're after in this life?
Yes. I mean, it's a good question. It might be something people like, and it might be something that goes against every cell of their body, and that's kind of how I am.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where I am. And I mean, looking at what I do for a career and things like that, it's more like a 9 to 8, but you're working 12-hour days, but is it in alignment with what you're trying to pursue in your life? And is it in alignment with what you're really hoping to get out of this life? Then it's going to be worth it. Put in the work now to figure out what you actually want to do. And, that's how I found my joy. And that's how I find my enthusiasm about every day is, I care about people. So let's put myself in situations that I can care about people and help them in certain aspects, right? Does that look like, speaking at church? Cool. Is that me creating a community or something? Awesome. Is that me being an influencer on social media? Great. It's just finding what's authentic for you and continuing to build upon that. And if you are working a 9 to 5, that's fine, but then what are you working on after that 5 to 9? That 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. What are you doing during that time? You're just sitting around bumming and watching Netflix?
Which is easy to do.
Easy to do, right? And sometimes people need that to
Agreed.
Decompress and find that creativity again. But if that's every day, then you're probably missing out on a lot of things. And you're not going after what you're actually hoping for in this life. And you're not achieving what you really want to. So that's kind of where my purpose has developed, is taking that time for you. If that means that after your 9 to 5, you got to take time for you. Okay, take that. For me, it was moving to a foreign country and just having oodles of time to figure out who I am.
Getting really clear on your priorities.
Yeah. What are your priorities? And, I would say for me, number one is my health. That's my personal physical health, mental, emotional health. And number two is my relationship with God, right?
I love it.
And then number 3 can be that significant other. Now, you as a girl, would that be something that you'd want to hear? Obviously, every girl wants to hear, no, you're my number one priority, right? If you're in a relationship, that's what you want to hear, right?
Well, I mean, depends on the girl. I mean, I feel like I want him to love God before me, because I feel like,
to an extent, yes.
Well, I think he should love me.
You want him to be your priority, right?
Well, yeah,
you want to be his priority for sure, but being number 3 on that totem pole, so that's daunting. It's whoa, number 3?
Huh?
But
only 3?
Vice versa for that significant other that I have. I don't want you to sacrifice the things that you want and what are going to keep you healthy, because that's not going to give you a stable relationship. You're both going to either be one or the other is going to be suffering. And then it just is a teeter totter of a relationship where it's like, oh, you're great. Now I'm bad. And you're great. And I'm bad. How about we both just be great and lift each other up?
Mm-hmm. And like support each other in what we both like.
Yeah.
Which I love. So let me get this straight. You said lots of good things there.
It's kind of all over the place.
No, I loved it. So you said to wake up every morning, to have joy, and to love people well. You told everybody that we need to love ourselves first. Mm-hmm. You also said a lot about priorities and how in order to wake up every day with joy and excitement, I think it takes a lot of time to be proactive and think through your priorities. And I think I also heard from you that, I mean, you can know your priorities, but there's also a sense of action involved. And totally, you're doing that right now. Like, you might not be at the place where you want to be, but you're still in your 20s, so you're going for it.
Yeah. Ultimately, it comes down to, like, I'd say three simple steps of, like, okay, are you taking care of yourself? Are you doing the things every day to nourish yourself and fill your cup? You know, whether that be like going to the gym or, you know, doing some type of sporting activity or reading a book, you know, whatever it be to fill your cup. Understand what it takes to fill your own cup, right? Build that, and then, okay, what is your relationship with God? That doesn't necessarily mean reading scriptures and praying and this and that. For me, it's meditation. That's where I speak to God and have communication. We've walked on the beach together, and we've done some crazy things, you know.
I love it.
But it's different for everyone. How do you what does your personal relationship with Him look like, and how do you communicate with each other? And then 3 is obviously looking outside yourself, building those relationships with the ones that you already care about, the ones that like are your immediate family, strangers, and then, you know, like community people like within the church or whatever it be. How are you developing those every week to filling your cup in each one of those things? As long as you're building those 3 things and filling your cup in each one of those, you can look back at every day and be like, well, that was a win. That was a great day. I did everything to fill my cup. Everything else is a cherry on top. You know, regardless of all the bad things that happened, you can still look back and be like, well, I did everything that I needed to fill my cup. So it was a great day.
What do you do to fill your cup?
Well, kind of like I was saying,
go to the gym. You go to the gym.
Yep. So I get up at like probably 4:45 now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Get to the gym at 5. And then I'm there for about an hour. So that's my number one. I get home, eat my breakfast, do my thing, and then either meditate or read some type of book. And then that's kind of like my coinciding with my relationship with God right there. Mm-hmm. While I'm at the gym, I listen to a podcast. I don't listen to music really anymore. I fill my cup in other ways, and that's one way to do it. And then starting off my day really good is hopping on my team meeting with my team for real estate, and we go over wins from the previous day. We talk about what we're going to be doing, you know, our goals for the day, and then finish it off with affirmations, you know, reassuring everything that you're going to be doing is going to actually happen, right? And then by 9:00, you know, I've had my social interactions with my team, you know, I've built myself up, and then I've built my relationship with God. Everything else after the fact, my job is, I'm super blessed with my job, is to make friends and do that kind of thing. Yeah. So I just reach out to people, see how they're doing, and, you know, people send me deals left and right because of it, right? Also, you know, I have to ask for them and things like that, but because you're building that relationship and you're showing that like you actually care and you're adding value to people's lives, they want to give back. You know, it's kind of like a natural human thing to, like, if I'm giving you something, you're going to want to give something back and kind of like even out the playing field, I guess. So it's kind of like that where, you know, it's super fun for me to, like, you know, call people, text people, just see how they're doing. And then, you know, naturally just things are going to come to you because it's a lot of traction. You're adding a lot of value to people's lives. It's just going to come back to you tenfold. So that's kind of what my day looks like in filling my cups. You know, it's going to be different for everyone though. You just find what works for you, find what fills your cup. Some people, they're not morning people. That's fine. As long as you're getting it in. So say like you're doing it at 8 p.m. or something like that. As long as you're taking the time to fill each one of those cups during the day, that's all that matters. For me, I found that process of like me, God, and then people just flows so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just feel much better about my day by doing that. So,
well, I think everything you said was awesome, especially that you wake up at 4:45. I think that's really disciplined of you. So I want to go back to travel. I wrote down, what is a moment of impact that changed the way you viewed a certain aspect of life through your travels?
Well, I mean, the first thing that I ever saw walking out of a chapel in the Philippines was a little 4-year-old, like probably 2-3-year-old boy pooping in the gutter of the sewer. Right on the streets of Manila.
Oh my goodness.
So if that doesn't give you any kind of perspective, then I don't know what does.
Yeah.
Wow. Day one, first experience, first thing I ever saw. Yep.
Wow, I bet that really changed the way you
day
thought.
One. Just like walking out.
What were your thoughts?
Like, well, that's real. This is what things are. And then I was blessed to go out to an island for my first area, and we lived the island life. And people just basically live in bamboo little huts, and they love life. And you're cooking rice over a fire, and but then like you also have like the other contrast of people actually having houses and things like that. But I mean, it just gives you perspective of like what actually matters and how blessed you are to actually pursue like what you actually care about. These people don't even have the chance to really care about what they want, because all they have time to think about is, okay, where's my next meal coming from? Where am I getting money to provide for my family? And, where is my water coming from? A lot of people would have to walk to the pumps and then they drag water up the hill, So it's like, all they care about is like, okay, where's my food? Where's my water? And is my family okay?
Needs.
Yeah. And then that's all they can care about, because they can't get past a certain financial point. And that's, I think, where a lot of my, where my purpose wanted to come in is like, how can we provide opportunities for them just like us, right? I have things that God wants to call for me. But if you're not in a position to be able to do anything else, then you're kind of handcuffed and you can't do anything else other than, let me go get some water for the family, let me provide for them, let me go get the food, and then by then it's okay, let's go to bed. So how can, like, that's kind of where my purpose, I think, coincided, was you see these families, all they care about is family. But you also hear a lot of these kids where like they want to be doctors, or they want to be nurses, or they want to go and do some normal type of job that we would think is a normal job, right? And that's all that they dream about. Like, that would be game changer for them, change their family. And all they need is a little bit of help to get there, right? And then, but they don't ever necessarily have that opportunity because of where their life has put them. So that's kind of like the eye-opening things, I guess, for me, was like, okay, well, reflecting on like the last 3 years of that, you see those things and I don't think you necessarily process it in the moment, but now being back and like developing myself emotionally, that's where it clicked for me. It's like, oh, that's why I was feeling those things. And that's where my purpose is starting to come from, is from that.
I like how you were very just aware. I think sometimes people can like go through life and they like feel excited about things, but they shove it down. And then I think those feelings are where our purpose comes from. Like, those are the things that we're excited about, and the things that we're passionate about are things that we're naturally excited about, obviously, which I think comes from God.
Totally.
And I just wanted to compliment you that you're able to be aware.
It makes me super sad to see people that give up on their dreams.
Yes, it makes me feel sad too.
You ask about anyone, and I'm probably the biggest cheerleader to go after your dreams. You ask anyone in the ward, they're like, "Oh, dude, he's like, I'm the guy to go to. If you ever doubt anything about your dreams, come to me and I'll cheer you on. Like, I'll tell you to go after it, because it's possible.
It is.
The reason why you're feeling like it's not is those people that don't go after their dreams were caught by Satan. That's what I believe.
Oh wow.
Is the people that haven't gone after their dreams, Satan got to them enough that they just are living their life now.
Just like creeping
Just
thoughts. Like,
going
you can't
through
do
it.
that.
Yeah. And as soon as you start giving up on that, that's when Satan got you, and you're not going after what God called you to do here.
And obviously he's going to get you for that, because that's what will make you live your calling.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And that's what's going to bring you closer to God. Like, that's what's going to bring your relationship closer to him, is because you're pursuing what he's called you to do. Obviously, like, those callings are going to start to shift. And if you've given up on the big one, then there's going to be smaller ones that come along, I think. But, like, imagine, like, you are going after something and you just give up. Like, what's the like, why? Like, why is there any reason to give up? There's literally none. There's no there's no reason to give up ever.
Other than just
like
a
what
temporary
is this
feeling inside
what is
us.
that benefiting you in any sense? It's really not. Like, okay, yeah, great, I didn't do it. Well, what if I did do it though? Like, where could you be? Right? Like, what would you be doing? How many people would you be impacting? Like, we talk about this, like, on the mission and things like that, where it's like you have to talk to every single person, because what if you miss someone that you were meant to talk to?
Yeah. And
you go after that. But okay, what about now in your actual life? You know, we're not on the mission. This is your life. You decide what you want to do with it. What if you don't touch as many people as you were supposed to? What if you miss out on those people, and come judgment day and you're like, well, you know, I gave up on it because I just didn't feel like I could do it, or people were just discouraging me. Well, what about those hundred thousands or millions of people that you could have touched over your lifetime by doing what you were supposed to? You know, think about those people.
And the beautiful thing is, obviously we're human and we're going to make mistakes, but
totally,
like, God can elevate our trying. So I think that's cool.
I think as long as you're not giving up on it, you're moving towards it.
I agree.
Just don't ever give up on it.
I have some questions about discipline, because literally I was just going off of assumptions, like, or when I first met you, and like the three things, or maybe I know travel, it was definitely travel, and also discipline. Like, you just seem like the most disciplined guy, and we talked about it throughout this whole episode. Like, you get up at 4:45 and you like travel to so many places, and that takes discipline too, because I think travel is sometimes scary. So yeah,
I guess it can be.
It can be scary. Some people think it's scary. I think it's freeing. I think it's so freeing. I do too. Let's see. So I just have 2 more questions for you. 2 pieces of advice that you follow every day that you would give me, or anyone sitting, if anyone is sitting here. Can also be one. Whatever you want.
Yeah, I think the biggest one would probably be don't limit yourself so much. You can achieve way more than what you could ever dream of. And then number 2 would be do the things that a person that you want to be like does. So, like, if you want to be a millionaire, study what millionaires do and replicate it in your way, right? They probably get up early. They probably do X amount of work. They do this much and this much, right? Develop those habits. Instead of setting goals for it, develop the habits of that person, and then you'll become that. You know, it's going to have to be tailored to you, but if you're developing those habits won't go away. You may achieve a goal, and then you'll just kind of forget about it. But if you become that person, that's who you are. That can never go away. So I think those would be the 2 that I'd give advice about.
All right. And then last question. What do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy would be to break barriers and to do it with love.
Well, anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
You can achieve anything, man. Like, there's that's my biggest
such
thing.
A cheerleader. I love it.
Like I said, man, like, you're gonna be what you want to be, depending on how hungry you are and how much effort you're willing to put in. Don't give up on it. Put in the work, and it'll come to fruition. You know, there's going to be a process through it. It's not going to happen overnight. If it happens overnight, then you're just going to take it for granted, and it'll be gone. It takes a process to build, takes that dedication, and takes that grit. But once it's there forever, and then you can start to pass it on generation after generation after generation.
Well, I can tell that you're going to pass it on generation to generation, because I feel like you are on the process, the path where it's being ingrained inside of you. So thank you for coming to my house and letting me interview you. So, well, I don't know how to end these episodes.
Thanks, guys. Love you.
Bye.